Okay, and here we go, guys. Let's jump in. So to start off this Earth Day webinar, let's talk a little bit about the Quest Crew. So the Quest Crew is an enrichment program here at Elite where we focus on all of the awesome things in the natural world. So this, what you're doing right now, is a Quest Crew event. You don't need to sign up, you just need to show up. So thank you guys for being here. It is very awesome to have you. And we are going to start by playing a little bit of Earth Day trivia. Get ready. Now, don't forget to mute yourself, guys.
All right, well, I have to go. Thank you. All right, thanks. Bye. A nice afternoon. You too, Rochelle. Bye. Thanks.
Yeah, we'll just have you mute yourself, guys, just so we can talk about the rules here really quick. So, there are 5 questions total to this game, and each gets subsequently harder. You cannot use research. You can only use the collective knowledge of the people around you. Now, you are going to have 20 seconds each time to answer one of these questions. And once you think of your answer, I want you to type it in the chat, but don't hit enter. Do you guys notice this little timer down here? You see how it's counting down for us? Once the timer ends, you can hit enter to submit your answer. Okay? So, for example, once I hit the space bar and we go to the next page, there will be a question. You have 20 seconds to type it down, but don't hit enter. As soon as it hits 0, then you can enter your answer and we will find out what it was. Are we ready? Okay, question number 1. How many continents are there on planet Earth? You have 15 seconds to type it in the chat. As soon as it hits 0, you can enter it. Okay. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right.
Simon, come over here. Good girl, come over.
Awesome. You guys nailed it. Yes, there are 7. 7 of them. Asia, North America, South America, Europe, Australia, Africa, and Antarctica. Does anyone know what is the largest island on planet Earth? Any ideas? Oop, I'm gonna go back. Hopefully no one saw that answer. Largest island, anyone want to throw that in the chat? Australia is a continent. Greenland, woo, we got it. Okay, awesome. Good job. Okay, so the next one, do you guys see these like red marks on the screen? Is that me somehow? I am not sure how those got there. Okay, next one.
I think the marks are, there's this thing called pen. Whenever someone shares screen, it's a little pencil mark, so we can draw on it. So someone must have accidentally drawn.
Oh, I got you. Okay, see, I didn't know about that. That's pretty cool. So, what is the largest river on Earth by volume? You have 15 seconds to type your answer in the chat. Don't hit enter until the timer ends.
Hey, Tom, I think you can take those off of your screen if you go to view options and then clear.
Okay.
We just got our seeds.
Cool, just in time. So we might have just missed that one here. I'm not too worried about the red marks at this point. I can't find the view options.
You're good, honey. Yeah, I did. I got it off now. Here we go.
Okay, cool. So I saw you guys throw a bunch in the chat. The answer is the Amazon. The Amazon is the largest river in the world by volume. By length, it was the Nile, but within recent research of actually mapping the Amazon, they're almost certain the Amazon is longer than the Nile, particularly if you count all of its tributaries. So, yep, good old Amazon. Question number 3. The blank occurs when days and nights are equal in length. The blank occurs when a day or night reaches a maximum length. 2 answers here. You have 10 seconds to type your answer in the chat. Okay, here we go. Yes, correct. Equinox and solstice, you guys are right. So the equinox is when we have an equal amount of daylight and night. And when we have the solstice, there's a maximum of night in either the northern or southern hemisphere. I'll get these red marks off after the game, guys. Okay. What percentage of Earth's water is fresh water? We're looking for a percentage here. We have 10 seconds to enter your answer into the chat. And 3%. That's great, guys. Yep. Awesome. Really good guesses. I would have guessed probably a little bit higher. Yeah, so if you look at that, 2.5% of that is fresh water. Of that fresh water, 68.7% is held in glaciers and ice caps still. 30.1% is in groundwater, and only 1.2% of that 2.5% is surface water. So every time you see a lake, a river, a stream, anything like that, that is a percent of 2.5%. Very, 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 very small of the total amount of water on the planet. Fresh water is so important. We're going to talk about it a little bit later once we get into some of this stuff. Let's go on to the last and final question. This is the hardest one. You guys are pretty smart, though. Here we go. How old is the Earth? All right, 10 seconds. And go. Let's see how we did. Okay, all over the place. 4 billion, 14 billion, 4.6 billion, 4.6 billion. Very, 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 very good guess. Yes, 4.6, you deserve an A+. It is about 4.5 billion years old. The universe, as scientists have calculated, is 13.8 billion years. So that's almost 3 times the age of planet Earth. Pretty crazy. So how did we do? You guys can throw it in the chat. How did you feel about those questions? Just kind of fun to pull back some of that knowledge that we might have learned clear back in elementary and middle school here. Okay, so I'm gonna see if I can't figure out how to clear this. Someone said it was in the screen share option.
So yeah, Tom, if you go up to the view options where you're sharing your screen, click the arrow, then you'll have to click annotate, and there should be a clear.
View options. Sharing your screen.
Do you see
Annotate,
it?
there it is. Oh, okay. Clear, crazy. Clear all drawings. Awesome, yay, thank you. Very much appreciated. And let's get on with it, guys. So, what we're going to talk about today might strike you as a little surprising because you thought you were coming here to plant seeds. We're getting there. I promise you we will get to planting our seeds. What we need to talk about first is what we need to do to get to planting the seeds. And it turns out we need a lot of things to rot. So the way life works really is this beautiful recycling system. Life is so good at taking what died, chewing it up, and spitting it out again so more life can happen. So decomposition here is the state of rotting. It's decay. Typically, this happens with organic waste. So we're going to watch a really short little video on decomposition. This is a whole bucket of common food that you guys would have at home, and this time lapse is over 74 days. Okay, let's see what it looks like. How much goes away in 74 days? Crazy. So just to go back, let's look at day number 1 and what we ended up with. Okay, day number 1. Where'd it go? There it is. And again, what we ended up with. So you guys can throw it in the chat. What were you surprised by how much things rotted in 2 weeks or in 2 months? Or was that less than you'd expect for something that's organic? You guys can throw your answer in the chat there. So some people are saying it's interesting to see how different these things are. Other people thought they'd turn completely into maggots. It's less than you'd expect, right? Strawberries do go bad in the fridge. That's a great point. Yeah, so if you think about this, this was sitting out in an environment where it was exposed to air. You guys probably noticed all the little bugs flying all over the place. Those bugs were doing a lot of this work. So the potatoes actually just started to grow. If you guys notice what's going on there, potatoes are shooting up out of the rotting food. Certain things like the onions, they didn't even change. Nothing was really wrong with those little pearl onions. So interesting. Let's talk about why this happens. Oop. Back. Okay. Video's being a little weird for you guys. So what starts decomposition, right? We have all this food. One could say time, maybe. Time might start decomposition. But there's a few more things that's going to kick off this process. Something needs to die. So this is a picture I took when I was on a backpacking trip in the Andes. I came across this dead cow, and you can't see because I did not do the close-up image of this cow's skull, but it was pouring with maggots. So there was all of these fly larvae that the flies had planted in this dying animal, and they started to eat away all of the flesh. This sounds really, really gruesome, guys, and it is, but this is really what needs to happen before plants can start to grow. Plants don't eat meat. Plants eat soil. So we need to make soil. The next thing that we need for decomposition to happen is water. Water needs to be present. If you can imagine something that might have been completely dried out, whether it was like a dehydrated apple chip compared to a raw apple, that raw apple is going to decompose much faster than the exact same counterpart. So by removing the water, you can preserve food. By adding water, you can increase the rate of decomposition. So I want you guys to view water as like nature's solvent. So solvent is something that dissolves another thing. Everything within nature essentially is water-based, more or less. So we have 3 culprits basically that are responsible for the majority of decomposition. You can see them up here in the upper right side of the screen. It's invertebrates. So we are talking about pill bugs, like potato bugs, worms, nematodes, this sort of thing. Bacteria, which is on a whole different level of the animal kingdom, and fungi. Fungi are pretty cool. We're going to talk about those guys a little bit. So for this process to begin, for decomposition to begin, we need that water. We need those living organisms. Those organisms need heat and oxygen. So if we imagine that we have, let's say, a woolly mammoth that might have died 10,000 years ago, something along those lines. If it's cold enough, if that woolly mammoth was frozen, it's not going to decompose. It might go through a couple of different processes, but for that thing to totally disappear, we need some heat going on. We also need some oxygen. So for the woolly mammoth example, if that thing's encapsulated in ice, we're not going to see that thing decompose over 10,000 years. So decomposers, for the most part, those worms, those mushrooms, those bacteria, need an aerobic environment. An aerobic environment is one that has oxygen. Anaerobic decomposition can happen, but that's more along the lines of fermentation, and that's a bit different of a process. So respiration is key here. Things need to be breathing. Now, in this picture, you might notice that there's a tractor scooping up a giant thing that looks like, I don't know, smoking ash. It's not actually ash. This is a compost pile. These are piles of rotting waste. I want you guys to throw in the chat, what do you think is causing all of that heat to be released from those compost piles? I'll read what you guys send out there. Why are those compost piles?
There are so many children.
If you guys are just joining, be sure you mute yourself. Okay, so far we have steaming waste, bacteria decomposing, fire. Barns do catch on fire because of this. Absolutely. If you put wet hay away in a barn, decomposition can happen and it can literally ignite a fire from the heat that's happening. It's crazy. So decomposing bacteria that evaporate, great. These are awesome. Any more? Sunlight. How can we create so much heat from something like this? Now the trick here, I think something we need to pay attention to is if you look in the background, you'll notice some fall colors. Chances are this image was taken in the fall. These piles were probably covered and we're looking at a little bit more of mist than smoke. So it might seem a little deceiving. But what's happening is as these bacteria are going in all of these decomposers, whether it's a worm, a bacteria, a mushroom, they're going through and they're breaking down the chemical bonds that constructed those living things. So a plant is basically assembling all of these different parts and pieces together to create a plant. And as it does that, it goes through photosynthesis and creates these bonds that make up the cellulose and the things that create the plant itself. Well, when we are going through decomposition, we are literally reversing the clock and breaking those bonds. When you break a chemical bond, sometimes heat is released. This is called an exothermic reaction. So this heat that is being produced from these bacteria, these decomposers working, is an exothermic reaction, and that is why compost piles and wet hay bales can burn down barns. Kind of cool. These things are powerful. Pretty fascinating. So on your worksheet that I sent with you guys, if you got your seed kits, we had 3 images. And we were wondering, how long does it take for these things to go away? So we have an orange peel, a cigarette butt, and a plastic cap from a juice bottle. So on your worksheet, it asked you to write your number for what you think, how long it takes this item to go away. And we're going to throw this in the chat as soon as we go through this, kind of similar to the trivia game we played, okay? So let's take a look at this orange peel. How long do you think, and now there's a bit of a range here. So I want you guys to think minimum time. What's the minimum amount of time it is going to take this orange peel to decompose? You can throw that in the chat here. So we have 2 months, 5 years.
2 days.
2 weeks. Okay, looking at 2 months, 6 months, 1 year.
Days.
Let's see, a couple more. Anyone want to throw their answer in there? Now think back to that video we watched. We watched that video and it took 2 months for even a zucchini to roughly go away. Now oranges have a couple of things inside of their peels that keep them sort of from decomposing. So it is at least 6 months. Now let's think about it here. It's going to depend on the oxygen, the moisture content, the accessibility to those decomposers. So were the decomposers able to get a hold of this thing, or was it sitting on a piece of asphalt where they wouldn't be able to access it? These things can influence the decomposition rates. But what you might remember is the next things, these are not organic things. So I will preface this cigarette butt is made out of cellulose acetate. That's what the foam on these things are looking up. I had to Google that just to figure out what the stuff was. How long does it take for a cigarette butt to decompose completely at the minimum amount of time?
A lot.
Yeah, it actually does take a lot of time. So throw your answer in the chat here, guys. I'll read them out as I see them. We've got 3 years, 10 years, 20 years, another 3 years, 5 to 10 years, 10 years,
20 years.
You guys are pretty good, actually. You're very, very good at this. You're right. It takes anywhere from 1.5 years, of course, depending. Are we in Seattle? It's probably going to decompose faster versus maybe 10 years if it's in LA or some other place where it's sunny, hot, not a lot of moisture. So if you think about all the cigarette butts for 10 years, if we have a chain smoker, we are looking at a giant pile of cigarette butts over a 10-year period. So it's kind of crazy. Now, the infamous orange cap. How long does it take a piece of plastic like this to decompose entirely? We got 1,000 years or more. Got 3 years. Someone says they don't even know if it's going away. 100 years. Million years, never. 20 years. Yeah, and this is, you guys are totally right. Plastic is a relatively new invention by humans. We don't know. We really don't know. But I have a bit of a spoiler alert for you guys. Are you ready for it? At least 450 years.
400.
But here's the kicker. Which one of these 3 things eats plastic? These are our decomposers here. We have our invertebrates, our fungi, and our bacteria. Which one of these 3 eats plastic? You can throw that in the chat.
Ella, excuse me. Are you live? None.
None of them?
None of them. Nobody eats anything. Bacteria, maybe?
No.
Maybe. None. Bacteria? Everyone's like, I'm with you. I would totally bank on bacteria eating this stuff because, like, I'm not going to eat it.
This.
Let's find out. Here we go. I tricked you guys.
The sun?
The sun. This is kind of crazy. Now think about this. Nothing, literally nothing can eat plastic that we know of in its natural form. But what the sun does is the sun is full of UV rays. UV rays are pretty powerful little electromagnetic radiation that breaks down the bonds within plastic. So let's take a little mind trip here. Plastic is made from a petroleum product. Petroleum comes from decomposed things that died millions of years ago in bogs, basically, that was buried under the earth, okay? Those things, when they were created, were made by the sun because all those plants photosynthesized sun to create the energy that they stored in their bonds that became petroleum that we pumped out of the earth to create plastic. So it almost only makes sense that the thing that can get rid of plastic is the thing that created plastic in the first place. Not exactly, though. The sun doesn't eat things, right? The sun works off of nuclear fusion. So mushrooms are our friends in this situation. It seemed like plastic might have been able to
plastic eating mushrooms. Kendall is right.
Kendall was right. Yep. But let's watch this video and find out why they can eat that plastic. So now check out this point, guys. The UV light is necessary. They need to have the UV. Would you guys eat that thing? I'm not gonna lie, I probably wouldn't. Yeah, someone said yes. You should definitely try it and tell us all how it was. Evan said he'd eat it. Like, right on, Evan. More power to you. Let's see if I can get around this video without it jumping through our whole presentation. Let's see if I can do this. No? Maybe I just have to jump to the end of it. Mushrooms are pretty amazing, and I'm banking on mushrooms either taking over the world or saving the world. I'm not sure which one yet. Okay, how did I get past? There we go. So what else can mushrooms do? These things are crazy creatures. Now, when I say creature, I truly mean it. Mushrooms are not a part of the plant kingdom or the animal kingdom. They're this weird in-between thing that we're still figuring out every day. And recent research has discovered some amazing things that mushrooms can do, not only for decomposing things, but also for connecting the entire network of life. So I wanted to share this with you guys really quick.
What's cool?
No, I'm not on mute.
Oh, sorry.
Underneath the soil, a vast and interconnected network of life links the trees through their root systems. But they can't talk to each other without help. The whole process starts with hub trees, the oldest and tallest trees in the forest. Hub trees have greater access to sunlight, and through the process of photosynthesis, end up producing more sugar than they actually need. Underground, fungi need sugar to survive. Most of their bodies are made up of a mass of threads called mycelium. They grow within the root system of trees to absorb the excess sugar. In return, the mycelium provides the tree with the nutrients it needs from the soil. This symbiotic relationship is known as mycorrhiza, which stems from the Greek words for fungus and root. These tree-fungi relationships connect the trees in the forest together, forming an underground communication network to exchange water and nutrients, to nurture their seedlings, and even send warning signals when under threat. So, how many trees are really talking to each other? To get a better picture of these forest relationships, a team of researchers used DNA analysis to map a fungal network in a patch of Canadian forest. Remarkably, they found that one tree was connected to 47 other trees. Their models also showed that when hub trees were removed, it would cause more connections to be lost than if trees were simply removed randomly. Studying these kinds of underground exchanges will play a vital role in creating stronger, more resilient forests for the future. So even though we might not be able to talk to trees, at least we can still keep trying to understand their language. Who knows what they might say?
Kind of crazy, right? Who knew? It's insane what mushrooms are doing, and we are seriously learning about these every day. That study only came out about 5 or 6 years ago now. Pretty fascinating. Cool. Some people sounds like they watched a documentary about this. It is absolutely completely changing. Yeah, all hail to Smurfs. Absolutely. It is pretty crazy. So now that we know what's going on with all this stuff, how soil really comes to be, it's time to give back to the earth and plant some plants. So I'm gonna stop the screen share here really quick. I can see all your beautiful faces now. Hey, everyone. Cool, yeah, I see some seed kits. You guys have your seeds ready? Cool, hey, everyone. Yeah, awesome. This is great. I'm gonna take you guys back. I've prepared a little spot back in the backyard where we can check out how to plant these guys. Okay. So you guys got me here. You can see the compost pile going in the back. I would totally dig into it with you guys, but I will get filthy. So if we see the earth here, I prepared this spot and we have some really nice soil and I've got it wet already, okay? So this soil is not parched, it's not dust. I've watered it really well and we're ready to put some seeds on it. Now, these wild California poppy seeds that you guys have came right out of a seed head and they're ready to hit the ground. So as compared to like say a tomato seed or a cucumber seed or something like that, that might actually go through some sort of like decomposition scarification or even going through the digestive tract of an animal, these seeds were never intended to be eaten by an animal. These seeds were intended to fall directly outside of the seed shell of their casing, hit the ground and bloom. Now, for us, we don't want to just lose all of our seeds because they could go away, whether it's the wind blowing them away, animals coming and eating them, all these sorts of things. We need to basically give these little seeds the best chance for survival. So step number one, get your ground really, really wet. I'm not putting them into a mud pit. The ground has already soaked up all the moisture and I'm left with this really nice, wonderful soil, okay? Can't see any worms in it, but I'm sure if I dug down deep, we would find all those decomposers. So within this amount of seeds that you have, you are free to spread them as far as you'd like or as tight as you like. You could plant a pot, maybe something about 12 inches in diameter, and this would completely fill the entire pot. I would probably suggest spreading these over about a 3x3 area, so about a 9 square foot area, and you'll end up with a really awesome patch of seeds. Now, let's consider where wild California poppies grow. You might have heard of Antelope Valley, places like this. They're very dry. California poppies love dry soil. So we need to find a place outside that they will get lots of sunshine. We can't put these in a shaded area. They can't go behind a house. They can't go underneath a tree. These guys need that full force of the sun. So where I am at right now, I have awesome southern exposure. Most of this is east light too. And I wanted to bring that up because right now it's already the end of April. The poppies have already bloomed this year. So thinking about that, we can't send these guys out into a very harsh situation. I would really, really suggest finding a place that gets morning sunlight. Morning exposure is going to be your best bet for success this time of year. If we're talking January, different story. You could probably throw that anywhere. So let's check out our soil here. We've got the ground a little bit roughed up, okay? And it truly is as simple with a wildflower as taking your seeds and simply sprinkling them on the ground, spreading them all over the place, everywhere that you would like a poppy to come up. Okay, all in this whole area, your entire bag. Just like it would happen in nature, but we're gonna give it a little boost here. Instead of just letting this go, don't let your plastic bag float away, okay? We don't need more trash on this planet. Throw that in your pocket, reuse it if you can. We're gonna take our fingers and we're gonna get dirty. I want you guys to get your fingers in the dirt and just scratch it like you're giving someone a back scratch, okay? We're just breaking up that top layer of soil here and getting it so all of these little seeds can work their way in. You could do this with a rake, you could do this with a trowel, you could do it with a stick if you don't want dirt under your fingernails. But we are just getting all this stuff worked in and we're going to wait. How long do you think we have to wait for this? How long is it going to take these seeds to come up?
How long do you think?
Yes.
A long time.
Yeah, as you know, and a lot of this is entirely dependent on the environment that we put our seeds in, because it's going to completely depending on what we do. So 3 weeks would be a little bit long. If you guys don't see your seeds coming up within a week, something didn't go right. And that is perfectly okay. So we're looking at about a week germination time on these seeds. Be sure that you give these seeds plenty of water too as we're going through here. We don't want to let our seedlings dry out. So for the first bit, we really want to make sure that all of these seeds are nice and wet. So it is that time of year. We have to supplementally water only until they get established. So once your seedlings are so high, you could probably start watering maybe every other day. Maybe you get to the point that you just give them water on Monday. And then after they're established for a month or two, let them go. They're wildflowers. They're perfectly capable of taking care of themselves. And if you chose a good enough location, they will come back every single year.
We have a popcorn for you. We'll put them in, okay?
Okay.
Does anyone have any other questions? I want to thank you guys so much for taking time out of your Thursday to learn a little bit about our awesome planet. It was so great to have you guys here. I hope you guys got your seeds. Cool, awesome. Excellent. Smurfs were not harmed during this demonstration. No Smurfs were harmed. That's a very good question though. I love that. Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much for coming. Have an awesome Earth Day. Have fun planting your seeds. And I will see you guys at the next Quest Crew event. Have an awesome afternoon, guys.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Tom.
My pleasure.
Happy Earth Day.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, bye.
Okay. So my foot was numb. Like under my